What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the RosterWatch Dynasty Show. He's the Trash Man. I'm Cody Carpentier, joining with you as always here on a beautiful Thursday in February. It's Dynasty season. It's officially Dynasty season. The NFL is over now with the Super Bowl last weekend, and we're looking forward to the Combine, the draft, new prospects, and making moves in our Dynasty leagues. Trash Man, there's one thing, though, that kind of comes into the window after the Combine. That's free agency. So today we're going to talk through some of these guys that are in our Dynasty top 150, also the top 250 that you can find over at RosterWatch.com. We're going to talk through some of these free agent receivers, quarterbacks, running backs. We might even talk about an aging tight end in the deal. Free agency begins, of course, on Monday, March 10th, when the tampering window opens, and then it officially begins on March 12th. So we're about a month away. Let's talk some free agents. Trashman, how you doing?
Can't complain. Had my post Super Bowl lull, and the like my, it's just like seasonal affective disorder. It's like coincides with the end of the NFL season.
It's kind of a weird feeling when you're like, all right, is it time to watch baseball? No, I'm not doing that. Basketball's on. I can't never. I'll be honest, Trash Man. I used to, when I was growing up, I was like a big basketball fan, big baseball fan, and the last, like, I don't know, 6-7 years, I've just completely shut the door on those two sports. Maybe it's because I grew up watching teams that despised spending money on being successful.
Yeah, I know the same, but baseball I'll have on. Just it's something like it's something I have on, while you're doing other things. You just, every now and then you'll hear a nice crack of the bat.
That's fair. Are you more a Houston Astro or a Texas Ranger?
It's funny. I'm Houston everything except for football, generally speaking.
Hey, well, we do know that you're transitioning a little bit into being a Houston Texan fan, but
it's hard not to.
There's a receiver who played in Houston this past season, got injured, Stephon Diggs, who's entering free agency this year. Diggs, of course, was in Minnesota a couple years ago, goes to Buffalo, and then is traded to Houston this past year, played 1 year, and he enters his age 32 season just on the precipice of our top 100 in Dynasty at the wide receiver position. Stephon Diggs, again, like I said, age 32, coming off an injury. Where do we kind of see and maybe not predict where he's going to go, but what's kind of your vibe with Stephon Diggs going forward in Dynasty, given that, like I said, he's age 32 and potentially going to be entering his fourth team?
It doesn't really bother me that he's age 32. I feel like Diggs, and some of the kind of more smallish receivers can have an extended career. He didn't really. I don't feel like he lost that much tread off his tires this season. It didn't seem like it. It didn't seem like a full season for Diggs. I see him kind of similarly to how I see Cooper Kupp, and although I think Diggs is a little bit more of an athletic specimen than Kupp is. Kupp, he's got the mechanics. But I think he's been a little bit more injury prone. I think Diggs offers a little bit more value coming into this offseason than perhaps Kupp, who, I feel like anybody attached to the arm, Matt Stafford, it's just that thing. It's just where he kind of gets that one receiver that he just keys in on and just targets maniacally. I don't know that Kupp is going to get that opportunity on his next team. I feel like Diggs is a little bit more of a creature who can create some of his own yards. So I feel like if Diggs gets in a decent landing spot, a nice West Coast style offense, he could catch a lot of passes this year.
What are the odds? I mean, first off, we do have to address he tore his ACL on October 27th. So that was around week 8. It was a non-contact tear against the Colts. I obviously grew up in Minnesota. He was in Minnesota while I was in Minnesota, and it felt like like you said, the injury bug was always chasing after him, whether it was hamstrings or ankles or abdomens. It was always an issue. But I'm looking up his injury history. He actually went 3 years where he was rather clean, didn't miss any games, according to Draft Sharks. He had a knee patella sprain in August of 2021, but he hadn't had an injury the last 3 years. You think there's a potential? I mean, we saw obviously Buffalo make it near the top again in the playoff run with Josh Allen, and there was a clear need for a wide receiver. I know that there's some drama attached to that situation, but would that be a situation you think would keep his dynasty stock afloat, where it's like a system he knows, a quarterback he has an attachment to?
I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I feel like this whole season for the Bills, I think they tried this Chiefs thing where they didn't necessarily felt like they needed like a number one receiver that could just kind of tack together receiving core to make it work for Josh Allen. I think it makes total sense for them to bring Diggs back. I think it puts them right back in contention to compete with the Chiefs this current season, who, may not be with, Travis Kelce this upcoming season. So I feel like that extra added firepower, familiar offense, and obviously they haven't filled that hole. I think it would make sense for Diggs to go back to Buffalo.
One other team that did pop up on some of the searches for Stephon Diggs as far as free agent connections, PFF is projecting him to get a 1-year, $16 million contract wherever he goes. Kind of makes sense with the injury stuff, but they attached him to the Dallas Cowboys. So I think the Dallas Cowboys is interesting, being potentially slotted as a number 2, where he's been kind of. I think you've used Stephon Diggs generally the last couple of years as a number 1, but if he goes to Dallas as a number 2, I think that would be a good spot. How about this number 2 in Cincinnati? Or you got a thought?
Well, for Diggs, it's just like Diggs and Lamb are almost kind of redundant to me.
Yeah.
I feel like they need like a field stretcher kind of, long, lanky kind of receiver to complement Diggs there. I mean, to complement Lamb. It seems like with Diggs being there, it'd be like, two of the same type of player.
All right. So talking about Dallas, then he looking for a longer, lankier, faster receiver. Faster might not qualify for T. Higgins, maybe Hollywood Brown. What about Hollywood Brown or T. Higgins? Would either of those fit the Dallas?
Hollywood Brown. I mean, it's not. I mean, he's like Turpin there. I feel like no. I want somebody bigger. I need a bigger body. T. Higgins would be great. A great fit in Dallas, I think.
Contractually, I think the team salary cap right now is not as what's the word I'm looking for? Genuous is not the word I'm looking for, is it? Anyway, Dallas has about, where'd the number go? They're minus $2 million right now in their 2025 salary cap. Whereas teams that have been talked about in the T. Higgins conversation, Washington and New England. New England's got $123 million in cap space. Washington's got 79. I think Byron got a hold of the Twitter account, I think yesterday or the day before, and made a post about the Bengals, how they should not sign T. Higgins. And he got some kind of rebuttal from some Bengal fans saying that they should bring T. Higgins back. Where do you see this T. Higgins thing? I think he's going to be the, other than quarterback with like Darnold, I think T. Higgins will be the most conversed player, I guess, as far as free agent conversation goes in fantasy terms. He's our highest ranked free agent right now. He's your overall number 26 player, my 48th overall player. He's entering his age 26 season. How do you kind of see this T. Higgins thing?
I mean, he's still young. I mean, I think on really most other teams, he'd be a number 1 receiver.
That's been the thought, right? It's like if it wasn't Chase, it'd be him.
No, absolutely. And we've seen what he can do when Chase isn't there. He definitely has the ceiling to perform like a number 1 receiver. So, and like I said, only 26, still young. It seems like he's been around for a long time. Well, just been such a high performer for a long time. I think he might get underestimated in the market. I mean, it feels like there are a lot of receivers, a lot of free agents that are going to be on the market this offseason. It feels like T. Higgins, whoever gets him, is going to get him at a value potentially.
Do you think? I mean, those top two teams on the list: New England, 123 million in cap; Vegas, 95 million in cap. New England has their quarterback in Drake May of the future. We know that. Las Vegas, whether it's Russ that they bring back and pair with Pete Carroll, whether they spend on Sam Darnold, or whether they try and get a Shedeur Sanders, is there one of those situations, or how do you feel about both of those situations in regards to T. Higgins? Like, is that good enough at the quarterback position? I know it's obviously going to be a drop down from Joe Burrow regardless, but being the number one in New England or the number one in Las Vegas, what does that do to his draft stock or his dynasty stock for you?
I mean, I think being in the number one in New England kind of sustains potentially his draft stock, his current draft stock. I mean, maybe slightly more upside on a week-to-week basis. I feel like I feel like he's the kind of guy who'll take a chance. He'll throw the ball downfield. He'll get out of the pocket. And I feel like New England, that receiving core is just kind of wide open. I mean, they have some decent players on there who might be able to take away some attention and defenses from Higgins. And they've got a pretty decent running game going there, and they've got a decent O-line. So I feel like most of the pieces are in place for Higgins to thrive if he lands in New England. Las Vegas, it's a little bit more questionable for me. You got Brock Bowers there already to take some attention off of him in defense. I feel like they have some decent receivers there already. Really, the question I think there will be the quarterback and then offensive line. And I mean, I think if Shedeur Sanders goes there, I mean, that makes a potentially exciting connection. I think it's something that I would want to buy stock in fantasy, attaching, anything attached to Sanders' arm. You'd love to see another. I mean, you don't want to miss lightning in a bottle like we did with Jaden Daniels this past season. You don't want to do that again. So, it offers some opportunity there. I think these are the kind of chances you want to take in fantasy, moving forward. Those kind of situations where we don't really know how it's going to go, but it potentially pay off. Pay major dividends to you.
Another wide receiver that I think it's an interesting topic because if you go out and you look at the consensus NFL mock drafts right now, there's a lot of people plugging receiver in to Tampa Bay in the first round. And I think it's wrong.
That seems wrong to me.
Exactly. It seems wrong. They're picking from 19 overall. They have other things to address on defense, just point blank period, not to talk about that too deep, but Chris Godwin coming off of an ankle injury. He didn't tear ligaments. He didn't tear an ACL. He dislocated his ankle. And the rumor was that if they had made the NFC Championship or Super Bowl, he was going to be back to play. They just didn't obviously make it that far. We talked to some people at the Senior Bowl in Mobile that are around that situation. And basically they were like, it's like a foregone conclusion that Godwin's going to be back in Tampa. He loves Tampa. His wife loves Tampa. They have great connection with the fans, with the team, with the front office. He's in the free agent pool. But I guess my question and my thought here, Trashman, goes to he's entering age 29. We obviously know Mike Evans is well over 30 and the other side of 30. Jalen McMillan's there. He seems to me, you talk about guys that like Diggs. Diggs is 32, right? Even more so than Diggs. Godwin feels more like a Thielen / Larry Fitzgerald longevity guy. A lot of people started to write off Adam Thielen 3 years ago. I think after that first season in Carolina, whatever year it was, I don't remember. And I was like, guys, this guy literally works out with Larry Fitzgerald in the offseason, Chris Carter in the offseason. That's the regimen that they have. And Godwin is a psychopath when it comes to health and fitness. And his wife is also in the health and fitness field. I just feel like this guy, staying in Tampa Bay makes the most sense. I don't foresee him going out there looking for a big deal. I think they get something done in Tampa. What do you think about Chris Godwin staying or leaving Tampa?
I like him staying there. Like you said, I think it makes the most sense. I feel like Tampa feels like they were this close to making it this past year, and I don't think the questions are on their offense. I think if they can maintain or try to maintain that same offense or similar offense this season, I think it makes the most sense for their organization. And I think Godwin too, coming off of an injury like that, I feel like maybe thinks that he wouldn't potentially get the kind of deal he would like in the open market. Him being an older player coming off an injury like that, I think his best bet, in his opinion, probably is to stay in Tampa Bay. So I think it all makes sense.
We got a couple people in the chat asking questions. Kip C, Royal Sled, we appreciate you guys. Please click that like button, click subscribe if you are here on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast, of course, leave 5-star review. We appreciate you for that. Royal Slade brought up, he said, Godwin returning to Tampa kills McMillan. We have both guys inside the top 100 right now. As a consensus, we have McMillan 96 and Godwin at 70. Does this kill McMillan? I feel like it. I mean, that's a pretty great trio.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good three.
And they're going to throw the football. Like,
yeah, I feel like it can definitely work for McMillan in Tampa Bay there, with him being opposite Mike Evans there on the other side of the field. I don't see it killing McMillan. I think potentially these guys could have trade off big games, but I think they could all continue to produce on a weekly basis in that offense, in that current offense.
All right, let's talk about a few more receivers before we move on to a different position. Keenan Allen entering his age 33 season. DeAndre Hopkins entering his age 33 season. Hopkins feels like he's right at the cliff, or he's maybe started to tumble down the cliff on the backside there. After this season in Kansas City. Keenan Allen, I mean, they said he was big going into the season, and he performed at times. I thought he was a little underwhelming. Tyler Lockett is north of 30 as well. He's got a year left on his contract in Seattle. A massive cap hit. I think the post June 1 saved $17 million for Seattle, and then has $13 million dead against them. And I guess we could also lump Deontay Johnson in here. Is this he's turning 29 this year, and he's outside of our top 200. This group of guys here, Lockett, Keenan Allen, Deontay, and DeAndre Hopkins, is this kind of group of guys to you in Dynasty closer to the sell side of things? If you have them, you're just kind of stuck holding them. Are you trying to get a little value? Do you think there's value in any of these guys in Dynasty?
I don't know that you're going to really get value on any of these guys. I feel like Allen, to me, is the most attractive. Just because of the type of player he is and the type of red zone option that he is. Some of these other guys, a little bit more small shoes. And Deontay Johnson, I think, kind of poisoned his well this past season with his attitude. He's going to end up somewhere, but I don't know that he's going to thrive somewhere if he's not the main guy, and I don't necessarily see him being the main guy somewhere else. I think it was kind of a perfect storm there in Pittsburgh when he was the guy there. So like I said, I think Allen offers the most upside of that group still. I mean, we've seen him, he was still arguably the Bears' #1 receiver this past season in a bad Bears offense. So I think for me, it's Allen #1. I don't know that you're really going to get value on him. But yeah, these are guys you just kind of hold. These are guys you draft on the back ends of your drafts, or as your, third, fourth receiver, and hope that they can outperform their draft stock.
Let's talk about quarterback just for a second because it's really just one guy. There's a couple of free agent quarterbacks, including the likes of like Jameis Winston and stuff like that, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Jacoby Brissett. But the main focus this free agent cycle is going to be around the soon-to-be 28-year-old Sam Darnold. In Dynasty, where we have him currently sitting, is the 61st overall player, right next to Trevor Lawrence, who's a year younger than him, right ahead of the Brock Purdy's, Justin Herbert's. They're all the same age. When you look at these guys in terms of dynasty at the quarterback position, the Raiders, of course, come to mind. They need a quarterback, whether it's draft or they take one here through this cycle. Tennessee Titans have the 10th most cap. They have $49 million. They're, of course, picking first overall, but free agency happens before the NFL draft. If they don't like what they see in Cam or Shador, which I think they like Cam a little bit more based on what we heard, that's the door. The Giants are 12th overall in cap. They have $47 million, and the Steelers are down there at 14th. They have $43 million. Those are the teams that are ahead of $40 million in cap space this year. So Raiders, Tennessee Titans, Giants, and Steelers. Is there one of those spots for Darnold that you think there's room for him to continue to grow up the board in Dynasty? Or, to me, I'll be honest with you, Trashman, my straight up thought here is any of those spots, to me, brings his Dynasty value down in comparison to what he was doing in Minnesota.
I mean, I think there's an argument for the Giants just because of the talent he'll have there at wide receiver, potentially, with Neighbors and company. I think maybe he could potentially thrive there. But, yeah, on the most part, I think it's a major downgrade. I think you're going to need – I think maybe most importantly is his quarterback's coach, his offense coordinator. It's, can they keep that ship afloat? Can they keep his head in a good place for the entirety of the season? We even saw this past season, he just had those glimpses of the Darnold of old, and it kind of sunk him at the end of the season. And you want to stay away those demons for the entire season. And I don't know that any of those teams set him up for that type of success.
I was listening to Houston radio this morning. Lance Erlang, NFL.com, is on Houston radio every single morning. And I don't remember how it got brought up, but Cooper Kupp got brought up, potentially going to Houston. And he basically answered that with, well, I think he's going to go to the Giants. Everything I've heard is Giants. So what about that? What if you end up with like a Darnold with the Giants because of cap, obviously is available, and they trade for a Kupp and they have a Neighbors?
I mean, that makes for a potentially potent offense for sure. I think maybe they want to get some more guarantees there at running back. I think the running back room is kind of thin.
You don't like our guy Tyrone?
I do, but I don't know that he's. I think
this class is pretty deep. I mean, it's the classic spot, right? That mid-round running back that excels. It's the Tyler Algier corollary, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like a big body there in New York to complement Tracy. But yeah, no, I think that could work out well for the Giants. It's going to have to. I mean, this NFC East conference is going to be pretty brutal. If they don't do something, if they don't add some firepower to that offense. And so I think bringing Kupp in would definitely help Darnold out. But then again, if Darnold's head isn't right, then it really doesn't matter who his target options are.
Let's go to running back here before we wrap this thing up. We have three running backs. They're kind of like lodged together right inside of our top 150, or right on the verge of the top 150 consensus. That's Javonte Williams, who's entering his age 25 season, Najee Harris, age 27, and Jordan Mason, age 26. I guess J.K. Dobbins is pretty much in that same area as well, coming off a 1,000-yard season with the Chargers. This is a massive, massive running back class in 2025. We talked about it on the show the other day. Alex and I did, about kind of like where running back 18 to 25 is right now. I guess that's a massive tier, but like the Devin Neals of the world, for example, from Kansas, is down there. Where in past years that was like Tavion Thomas, and like Xavier Valade, and guys that just didn't even make rosters. Whereas this year it's going to be guys that are pushing for opportunities on the field. The Rocket Sanderses of the world from South Carolina. That's going to probably hurt this running back free agent group. Whereas like the last couple of years, we've seen Saquon get a deal, Derrick Henry get a deal, Swift get a deal.
But those are all special running backs. I mean,
is there anything special about those guys I just listed off? Like it's literally Javante's 25. He's the youngest, and he's maybe been the most disappointing out of those four. I know Dobbins has been disappointing because of injury, but
right. But Dobbins is the best of those backs talent wise.
Yeah,
easily. He just doesn't stay healthy or hasn't managed to stay healthy for any real length of time. But I do think that Dobbins, if he was to stay healthy, could still be a top back for sure. I feel like the Cowboys could go for a couple backs. I feel like they could get one in free agency and draft one or two. I think they probably need to. But are there other teams who are in similar positions? I don't know. Like, I feel like because there is so much depth at the running back position in the draft that some of these older backs who are already kind of devalued anyways, running backs in the NFL, especially as they get older, it's not a great market for them. So, I mean, look for them to try to make deals where they can.
Speaking of Dallas, I mean, you talk about that backfield. Rico Dowdle's a free agent. The only running back under contract is Deuce Vaughn right now. What if Dallas does get two running backs and they just decide to make it a Boise backfield and they get Alexander Madison for $3 million, $4 million, something like that, and then they use that 12th overall pick on Ashton Genty? I think that then you go out and you get T. Higgins, you got CeeDee Lamb. All of a sudden, you got some offense.
Yeah, if they got the money for it. I mean,
they don't have that.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to get that from, but Jones. I mean, if he's still there, that would be ideal. I don't know that he will be, but like I said, like Madison, I don't think Madison really helps that running back room. I feel like I don't know that he's any better than Rico Dowdle.
But Rico's a free agent too. The thing is like, can you bring in Madison? And the theory there would be you bring in Madison for cheap, and he's basically just a veteran in the room to kind of not really teach Genty much other than just how to be a pro.
Right. I would want somebody better than Madison. I think. And I think some of those other options you listed, I think to me offer more security than Madison does for Dallas. I mean, it would be cool just the Boise connection, but it doesn't really excite me.
That's fair
from a fantasy perspective.
All right, old running backs, aging running backs. Nick Chubb, age 29 this year in Cleveland. He's outside of our top 200 right now in Dynasty. There's a couple of other running backs that are also getting up there in age. Aaron Jones turned 30 this year. Jeff Wilson is come on. Naheem Hines is also out here. That's over 29 years old. It's not a great class of free agents, but there are some older guys, and I guess Kareem Hunt. Here, I'll stage a question this way. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, 29 years old plus. In Dynasty, you're carrying these guys. What are you doing with them?
Aaron Jones to me probably offers the most potential value of that group, in my opinion. I just feel like the type of running back he is, he can still do a lot.
Be a third down back.
He can be a pass catching back. I guess I kind of see him similar to how I see Hunt, who actually did pretty well for KC this past season. Nick Chubb, 29, and with his injury history, it's kind of in no man's land with a lot of these running backs. But it's kind of an exciting place to be in fantasy. Having those options, having those late picks where you can just take a stab at some of these guys who are are kind of long in the tooth, but could potentially bounce back for a season and kind of put you over the edge. So it's an exciting time for fantasy in that, as a trash man, that you have these guys who, you don't really know how they're going to do, and then in the wrong position they could. But the thing is, they're not really going to take you because you're not going to spend a lot for them. So to me, it's just finding the right confluence of team, scheme, and the dream. I just wanted to rhyme there. I don't know.
I like it. I like it. I mean, this is what this 2025 running back class is defined as. It's truly trash man SZN seasons, trash man season here. When these rookie drafts do come around, I think that's going to be maybe the position I look at most people. Everyone else is going to be looking at T. Higgins and Darnold and Godwin and all these other receivers and stuff in free agency. But I want to just see how this running back kind of group unfolds. Who gets signed that first week? Does anybody get signed that first week from this running back group? Because I think a lot of NFL teams will be looking at the rookie class that's legit 32 deep. And you get down there and it's like, oh, there's Phil Maffa from Clemson who's outside of the top 30, had a 1,000-yard season. He's 235 pounds. Well, guess who could probably plug into those Giants behind Tyron Tracy and get some carries at a guy that played at a high level at Clemson. There's the show, Roster Watch Dynasty Show. We appreciate you guys for tapping in. Please click that like button. Please click subscribe. Kip C, Royal Slade, Tylen, Soggy Danger. Appreciate you guys being in the chat. I see Tylen saying Carson Vincent is coming. He indeed is coming. He had a great Senior Bowl. He's going to continue to rise up those draft boards. Click that like button. Click subscribe. Until next week, he's the Trash Man. I'm Cody Carpentier. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. And we'll see you.
Peace.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to Roster Watch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to Roster Watch.